Hi, it's Ben Grabham here with ADB. Over the next few months, we're going to be bringing you some cool setup tricks and rider tips for riding in the desert and in the sand. Okay, the section we're going to focus on up ahead here, it's a nice twisty bit, something similar you'd find to say you had a desert race. This is where it's a good example to look far ahead so I can plan upcoming corners. If I don't plan them, I generally end up on the wrong side of the track, and you make a nice smooth corner very sharp when it doesn't have to be. So basically I'm looking as far ahead as I can, planning it early, working out which side of the track I need to be on. A lot of the turns I like to enter either in the middle of the track or towards the outside of the corner. That way it opens up the corner and gives me plenty of room when I get into it to decide where I need to go. So let's give it a run. This nice little rough section here, this is a good example to work on body position. In the desert, a lot of it is high speed and sandy, so I recommend keeping your weight towards the rear end, especially on the straights. It helps to push the tyre into the ground, just keep the bike settled and keep it going straight in a fast line. You'll also notice that's why we put the Steggies on for this kind of stuff. I'm leaning really hard into them over the bumps and pushing the rear wheel into the ground. It helps to keep the bike settled. It works really well with that high speed, getting your weight back. That time through there, I kept the rear wheel on the ground most of the time and it kept pushing it forwards. It's one of the most common mistakes I see people make in desert and high speed is just being towards the front. You get lazy and let your body move forward, and that's the last thing you want to do, because if you start weighting that front wheel, especially in the sand, that's when the back wheel starts to want to swap side to side and overtake you. The next one I'm going to demonstrate here, may sound simple to people, but you see a lot of people do it wrong, especially when they get tired over a long distance desert race. It's just about keeping your elbows up in a strong position. The first demonstration I'll do is I'll ride along as if I'm a little bit tired, let my elbows droop down, and you can visually see how unstable the bike is. It wants to wiggle underneath me, move around, and it's just hard work and it's scary. It makes me feel like it's just going to swap out and crash. As you can see then, it's actually pretty damn dangerous. A bit scary for me at times too with elbows down. So the next one I'll do is elbows up, how I recommend riding through the desert, keeping your shoulders up in a nice strong position so your body doesn't want to twist. And you'll be able to see how much safer and stronger and better it looks. With my elbows up, it's that much smoother and easier. You wouldn't even think I was on the same piece of ground. The bike didn't really want to move around much at all underneath me, and it just allowed me to settle down and focus on the next bit of track. A lot of the desert races I've done over the years are very high speed. Sometimes you can spend a fair bit of time on country tracks and everything, going maximum speed on a bike up around 170. So it pays to get that little bit more top speed out of your bike. You want to get more aerodynamic. So what I mean by that is I get my butt back towards the back of the seat, and then I get my helmet and tuck my body in close to the fuel tank. I'm trying to keep my elbows up so it's still in a strong position, but that way by just getting lower on the bike and out of the air, I can feel straight away the bike goes faster. I'm not copping as much force to the wind on my chest, and it's easier in every way. This next desert riding skill is quite technical, really. It's quite advanced. I've got a section here that's quite sandy, and it just goes into a medium-sized small sand mound. What I'm going to do is the first example I'm going to ride through. I'll do what most people do. I'm going to shut off before the mound because you see a big sand mound, and then accelerate off it. And what you find is the bike gets, when I'm going into it fast and then I shut off, the bike gets light and unsettled and wants to move around. And then when I accelerate again, it moves around and I go off the jump a little bit sideways. I don't get that much air, and then I've got to try and build up my momentum again. It's all about trailing or dragging your rear brake when you're coming in an obstacle too fast, or somewhere where it's like this, quite messy beforehand, and you don't want to shut off and unsettle the bike, but you want to still maintain lots of speed. So what I do is when I'm coming too fast in this obstacle, instead of shutting off the gas like I did on the last go, I'll actually start to load up the rear brake and drag it while I keep the throttle on constantly, keep giving it throttle. And what that does is actually slow the bike a little bit, and it sucks the rear of the bike in the ground, keeping the bike nice and settled. And then when I'm happy at the speed and everything that I want to take the sand mound in, I let it off. Okay, here we're going to run through a whoop section. To be honest, it's pretty similar to some of the stuff you find in the Hattah Desert Race and the odd small section you find in Fink. They're not massive whoops, but they're big enough to bring people unstuck pretty quick. It's a reasonably high speed section. I'm going through there in like 4th gear on this WR450. What I'm mainly doing, it comes down to a lot of body position. I'm going to keep the bike right in the middle, meaty, high end of the power, while keeping my weight towards the back, and I'm really leaning into the steggies over each whoop, trying to push that rear wheel into the ground to send me forward and keep the front light as I touch each whoop ahead of me. While I'm keeping my weight back, I'm standing in a slightly squatted position, ready to soak up the whoops and let the bike move underneath me. That's pretty important at the same time. And just always working the throttle as well. I'm not holding at one constant throttle. On the face of each whoop, I'm accelerating and using the power of the WR450 to sort of send me through to the next whoop, and just focusing on keeping that front as light as possible.